I lay on the cold kitchen floor, chest seizing, fingers shaking, phone slipping from my grip as the kettle screamed behind me. "Call 911, Mom. I'm in a meeting." That's what my son said. 46 years of being his mother. First steps, scraped knees, graduation ties. And when I whispered, "Please," he hung up. The bruises faded. The silence didn't. That was the day I learned. I didn't raise a son. I raised someone who forgot I mattered. All right, before we dive into this crazy story, do me a favor. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching from. The kettle had just begun to hiss when the pain struck like a hammer between Donna Tilden's ribs. 1 second she was rinsing her mug in the sink, the next her knees buckled, and the world pitched sideways. The sound of the mug shattering on the tile came before the thud of her body hitting the floor. Cold linoleum pressed against her cheek. For a moment she couldn't breathe. Only hear the faint whine of the kettle and the ticking wall clock she'd owned since 1982. The air smelled of burnt toast and dish soap. She forced her fingers to move, dragging herself toward the counter where her phone lay charging. "Come on," she muttered, her voice more breath than sound. Her hand trembled as she fumbled the cord loose. The phone slipped once, skidding away, but she caught it by the corner and pressed the side button with a shaking thumb. "Mark," she whispered when he answered. "Please. I think something's wrong." Static, a chair scraping, then his voice. Steady, businesslike, stripped of warmth. "Call 911, Mom. I'm in the middle of a meeting." For a beat she thought she'd misheard. The pain pulsed sharper, cutting through her chest. "I can't—" But he was already gone. The line clicked silent. Her reflection on the dark screen looked older than she felt. A woman fading into the edges of her own kitchen. She let the phone fall beside her and listened to the kettle scream. Somewhere outside, a dog barked. She tried to push herself upright, but her arms quivered and gave out. The impact sent a shock up her spine. Tears came, uninvited, mingling with the dust on the floor. It wasn't fear that settled in then. It was disbelief. After everything she'd given him, scraped knees, broken curfews, every birthday card mailed on time, 46 years of being a mother, and that was all he could manage. "I'm in the middle of a meeting." She closed her eyes and focused on breathing through shallow, quick gasps. The pain edged toward numbness. In the distance, she heard a door slam. Next door, maybe. Lacey's place, if she could just make a sound. "Help," she tried, barely audible. Then louder, desperate now. "Help!" The front screen door rattled, hinges squeaking. Lacey Monroe's voice sliced through the air. "Donna? You okay in there?" Donna wanted to answer but couldn't muster the breath. She heard the neighbors' hurried footsteps, the scrape of shoes on tile, and then Lacey kneeling beside her, smelling faintly of cold air and laundry detergent. "Jesus, Donna, what happened?" Lacey's hands were already at her shoulder, assessing, practical. "Don't move. I'm calling an ambulance." Donna shook her head weakly. Don't bother Mark. He's busy." Lacey shot her a look sharp enough to cut steel. To hell with Mark. She snatched the phone, tapped 3 numbers, and spoke with brisk precision. "Yes, 74-year-old female. Fall. Possible rib injury. Conscious but in pain. 2417 Maple Crest Drive. Hurry." As Lacey talked, Donna's gaze drifted to the window above the sink. The maple leaves outside were turning, fiery red against the dull sky. Early snow would come soon. She could smell it in the air even through the pain. Time, she thought, keeps moving whether anyone's ready or not. "Stay with me, okay?" Lacey's voice softened. She brushed a strand of gray hair from Donna's forehead. "Ambulance is on its way." Donna managed a faint smile. "You always show up?" she whispered. "Of course I do," Lacey said. "Some people don't need a meeting scheduled to care." The words landed heavier than either of them expected. Donna's chest hitched. She closed her eyes, feeling the thump of her heart against her bruised ribs. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, growing louder. Lacey gripped her hand tighter. As the paramedics burst through the door, the kettle finally clicked off. Steam curled in the still kitchen, dissipating into quiet. They asked her questions: name, age, pain level. But all she could think of was the flat tone of her son's voice, and how easily he'd hung up. When they lifted her onto the stretcher, Donna caught a glimpse of her refrigerator. Photos of birthdays, vacations, Mark as a toddler with cake on his chin. Each one felt like proof of a story she might have imagined. Lacey followed them out, holding Donna's purse, promising she'd lock up and feed the cat. The cold air outside hit Donna's face as the stretcher rolled toward the waiting ambulance. She looked up at the pale sky and thought, I begged my own son for help, and it wasn't him who came running. The ambulance doors slammed shut, sealing her inside with the siren's rising wail, an echo of something breaking that would never quite mend. The antiseptic sting of hospital air lingered in Donna's nostrils as she blinked awake to the rhythmic beep of a heart monitor. A beige privacy curtain framed her world, half closed, faintly fluttering each time a nurse passed by. The ceiling tiles above her were speckled and impersonal, like clouds that refused to form shapes. Her chest ached with every breath. Someone had taped a band of gauze around her ribs. The memory of the kitchen floor came back in flashes. The cold tile, Lacey's voice, sirens. She reached for her phone on the rolling tray beside her. Bed. The screen lit her face in sterile light. Donna. I'm okay. Bruised rib. Her thumb hovered before she hit send. The text looked too simple for what she'd endured, too light for what it meant. But she pressed send anyway, hoping for a sign of warmth, or maybe just acknowledgement. The reply came 3 minutes later. Mark. Glad you're okay. Super slammed this week. That was it. No question, no call, no concern. Donna's eyes stayed on the words until the blue light blurred. The monitor beside her kept beeping, steady, detached. She locked her phone and placed it face down. The afternoon light through the small hospital window looked like watered-down gold. Thin and cold. Lacey had texted earlier, promising to bring crossword puzzles and her old robe tomorrow. The nurses came and went, their voices soft but rushed, the air filled with the sound of rolling carts and rubber soles. A nurse with a soft Virginia drawl entered, checking the IV line. Her name tag read, Julie Tran, RN. She adjusted the blanket around Donna, tucking it in with quiet precision. Need anything, sweetheart? Julie asked. No, thank you, Donna murmured. Just trying to stay out of the way. Julie smiled faintly. That's what every patient says the first day. When she left, the silence returned, pressing heavy against Donna's ribs. The clock on the wall clicked to 2:47. She turned her phone again, half expecting a follow-up message from Mark. Maybe, do you need a ride home? Or, want me to stop by? Nothing. Hours slipped past in slow increments of hospital routine. Vital checks, meal trays, whispers from the hallway. As dusk began to thicken beyond the window, her phone buzzed again. For a moment, her heart lifted. But the name on the screen wasn't Mark's. It was Erica. Erica. Did you need something urgent? Donna read it twice, then 3 times. No greeting, no punctuation. Just the quiet accusation tucked inside those 6 words. She typed back a reply, deleted it, then typed again. No, just wanted to let you both know I'm okay. Her thumb hesitated. The word both suddenly felt too generous. She erased it and sent, no, just letting you know I'm okay. Her phone stayed silent afterward. Donna stared at the ceiling until her eyes blurred again. Every tick of the clock felt louder than the last. She wondered if Mark had even told Erica about the fall, or if the text had just been a polite obligation sent while folding laundry. When Julie returned for the evening rounds, Donna blinked away the moisture in her eyes. "Pain scale?" Julie asked, checking her chart. "4," Donna said. "Maybe 5 when I laugh." "Well," Julie said with a small grin, "I'll try not to tell you any jokes." She adjusted the monitor leads and reached for the blanket again, shaking it out gently before draping it across Donna's chest. The warmth was instant, almost startling. "Thank you," Donna whispered. Julie nodded, still, smoothing the edges. "You're welcome. You got family close by, honey?" The question landed softly but stung anyway. "Close?" Donna repeated. "Not really. My son's in town, though." "That's good," Julie said with genuine optimism. "I'm sure he'll drop in soon." Donna smiled faintly but didn't answer. Julie's eyes flicked to her, and for a second the nurse seemed to understand more than her chart would ever show. When she left, Donna's room dimmed again. The blanket held its warmth, but the hollowness beneath it grew colder by the minute. Outside the door, someone laughed, young, carefree, alive. Donna turned her phone over one last time. The screen stayed dark. No new messages. Her ribs throbbed in rhythm with her heartbeat as she whispered into the quiet. "I raised him better than this." The words weren't a complaint. They were a realization. Quiet, heavy, irreversible. A nurse's voice paged overhead for a code blue 2 halls away. Donna stared at the ceiling, tracing cracks that looked like veins branching across plaster. Somewhere deep inside her, a small, unfamiliar resolve began to form. Fragile at first, but growing stronger with every indifferent silence. And as the night shift lights dimmed, that resolve whispered its first promise. "He may never come, but I'll learn how to stop waiting for him." Morning light crept across the hospital floor in long, quiet stripes, pale gold on polished linoleum. Donna Tilden watched it inch toward her bed, each slow movement reminding her how long she'd been there. 3 days now, maybe 4. The clock had lost its meaning somewhere between the steady rhythm of her heart monitor and the scrape of meal trays outside the door. Her room smelled faintly of lemon disinfectant and old coffee. The vase of grocery store carnations Lacey brought yesterday had begun to wilt, curling in on themselves like they'd grown tired of waiting too. Lacey had come early that morning again, crossword book in one hand, a pair of soft wool socks in the other. "I figured you'd be bored out of your mind by now," she said, dropping the socks on the nightstand. "These are the ones you like. The thick ones, from that Vermont catalog you pretend you can't afford." Donna smiled. "You spoil me." "Someone's got to," Lacey said, flipping open the crossword. 7 letters, means good for nothing, starts with M. "Mark," Donna said dryly. Lacey snorted so loud a nurse peeked in through the door. Donna laughed until her ribs protested, and the laugh turned into a wince. "Careful," Lacey said, her tone softening. "You're healing." The word healing felt generous. It implied something was mending. But the truth was, the bruise on her ribs would fade faster than the bruise under her chest. By late afternoon, Lacey had gone home to check on the cat, promising to return with her homemade chicken soup. The silence that followed was thick and echoing, the kind of quiet that reminded Donna how loud absence could be. When Julie appeared, her blue scrubs crisp and her ponytail pulled tight, the room seemed to exhale. She was carrying a new blanket, still warm from the dryer. "How's our favorite patient?" Julie asked, setting it down gently. "Restless," Donna admitted, "and maybe a little lonely." Julie adjusted the blanket with practiced care. "Still no visitors?" "Just Lacey," Donna said. "She's been a saint." Julie hesitated, meeting her eyes. "What about your son? You said he's in town." Donna's throat tightened. "I raised him better than this." Julie studied her for a moment, her face softening. Then you deserve better than this. The words landed like a hand on her shoulder, gentle, grounding. Donna blinked back the sudden sting in her eyes. Julie moved on, checking vitals and charting quietly, giving Donna space to breathe. Outside, a light snow began to drift past the window, the flakes catching in the glow of the parking lot lights. Boise's first snow of the season. By the next morning, the halls buzzed faintly with the energy of change-of-shift chatter and breakfast trays. Donna decided she'd had enough of lying still. She swung her legs over the edge of the bed, her body protesting but not refusing. Julie caught her halfway down the hall, leaning on a walker. "Look at you," the nurse said, smiling. "Trying to escape already?" "Just stretching my legs," Donna said. "If I don't move, I'll forget how." Julie walked beside her, steady and patient. The hallway walls were lined with faded watercolor prints, mountains, rivers, places meant to calm. Donna paused by one showing a field of aspens under snow. "Beautiful," she murmured. Julie nodded. "You'll be home soon." Donna wasn't sure if she wanted that anymore. Home had started to feel like another kind of empty room. That afternoon, when she returned from her short walk, a small red light blinked on her hospital phone. A voicemail. She pressed play, bracing herself without knowing why. Mark's voice filled the room, casual, upbeat. The voice he used with coworkers, not with her. "Hey, Mom. Hope they're feeding you all right in there. Let me know when they're springing you. Been crazy busy. Anyway, glad you're okay." There was a pause, like he might add something more, but then the line went dead. Donna sat very still, the phone receiver heavy in her hand. The monitor kept its indifferent rhythm. "Hope they're feeding you." Not, "I'm sorry I wasn't there." Not, "Do you need me?" Just polite noise. She set the phone back in its cradle and stared at the window. The snow outside had thickened, soft and relentless. In the reflection, she saw herself. Hospital gown, tired eyes, hair matted on one side. For the first time, she saw not a patient but a woman halfway through learning how to stop expecting anyone to show up. The room lights flickered as the storm strengthened. Somewhere down the hall, a child laughed, high, pure, out of place. Donna turned toward the sound, smiling faintly through the ache in her chest. And then she whispered, to no one at all, "Next time he calls, he won't find me waiting." The storm outside answered her in silence. Thick, falling, final. 2 weeks after the hospital released her, Donna Tilden sat in the reception area of Rudd & Associates, Elder Law and Estate Planning, watching the snow melt in thin rivers down the front window. The office smelled faintly of lemon polish and coffee. Clean, unhurried, professional. Her purse rested on her lap, heavy with documents she'd never imagined she'd bring here. She'd ironed her blouse that morning, the same soft blue one she'd worn to Mark's high school graduation. A quiet kind of defiance lived in the choice. When the receptionist smiled and said, "Mr. Rudd will see you now," Donna stood, straightening the strap of her purse. Her ribs still ached faintly when she moved too fast, but the pain had become a reminder, one she didn't want to forget too soon. Miles Rudd's office was lined with mahogany shelves stacked with thick binders and legal volumes, their spines neat and severe. A single framed photograph showed a trout stream winding through pines. Behind the desk, Miles looked up from a file, silver hair, pressed shirt, wire-frame glasses. "Mrs. Tilden," he said warmly, standing to shake her hand. "I'm glad you came in. Lacey told me a little about what happened." "Did she?" Donna sat down, placing her purse on the desk. "She's been more helpful than anyone else lately." "That's what good friends are for." Miles folded his hands. "How can I help you today?" Donna reached into her purse and pulled out a manila folder. Inside was her will, creased, dated, and witnessed years ago. She slid it across the desk. "I need to make some changes." Miles skimmed the document, his eyes tracing the familiar legal phrasing. Everything currently goes to your son, Mark. Yes, Donna said softly. That's what it says. He glanced up. And what would you like to change? She met his gaze. Everything. For a long moment, neither spoke. The clock on his credenza ticked evenly, steady as a pulse. Then Miles nodded once, not surprised. All right, he said. Let's start from the top. As they worked through the document, Donna's voice steadied. The hesitation that had haunted her for weeks began to dissolve with each revision. She removed Mark as beneficiary. She listed a women's shelter outside town as one recipient of her savings, the public library as another. Her home, paid off and quiet on that cul-de-sac, would go into a living trust, with Lacey as trustee. When Miles reached the section on health directives, he asked, "Who should we list as medical proxy?" "Lacey Monroe," Donna said, without pause. "She knows what I'd want." "She shows up?" He wrote the name neatly, nodding. "And executor?" "The same. She'll make sure no one interferes." Miles adjusted his glasses, studying her with quiet respect. "It's not easy to make decisions like this. Most people wait until it's too late." "I've been waiting for someone else to do the right thing for too long," Donna said. "Turns out, that person had to be me." He smiled faintly, signing his initials on the corner of the draft. "You know, this will likely surprise your son." "That's fine," she said, the corner of her mouth tightening. "He hasn't asked about surprises in a long time." They reviewed every clause twice. Miles's assistant came in with notarization forms, and Donna signed each one carefully, her hand trembling only once. By the time they finished, a thin stack of new papers sat on the desk, crisp and final. Miles gathered the folders and slid them into an envelope. "We'll make this impossible to contest," he said, his tone calm but absolute. Donna exhaled, slow and steady. "Good." As she stood to leave, Miles handed her a copy. "Keep this somewhere safe. And Mrs. Tilden." He hesitated. "You're doing the right thing. Sometimes peace of mind has to be earned." Outside, the snow had begun again. Light, feathery, patient. Donna pulled her coat tight and stepped into it, the cold air sharp against her cheeks. Her old will felt lighter now in her bag, a ghost she'd finally released. At the corner, she saw her reflection in the office window, upright, small but unbroken. The woman looking back at her wasn't the same one who'd fallen to the kitchen floor weeks ago. She turned toward the parking lot, her breath clouding before her. "He doesn't know it yet," she murmured, "but I've already stopped belonging to him." The wind carried her words away, scattering them into the white silence like a promise made only to herself. And for the first time, Donna smiled, not with relief, but with resolve. The first real thaw of the season came the morning Donna Tilden finalized her new will. The ice along the eaves of her ranch home dripped steadily, tapping against the windows like a patient metronome. She sat at the kitchen table, pen poised over the signature line, the document spread before her like a quiet declaration of independence. Her handwriting shook slightly, not from age, but from the gravity of the moment. Each stroke was deliberate. One final tether cut cleanly, one silent truth committed to paper. She signed her name 3 times, sealed the envelope for Miles Rudd's office, and pressed the flap with the edge of her palm until it stuck. The sound of it closing was soft, but final. On the counter, her phone buzzed. Mark's name flashed on the screen. For a heartbeat, she considered letting it ring out. But curiosity, or maybe old instinct, made her swipe to answer. "Hey, Mom." His voice came, breezy, cheerful, all surface. "Just checking in. You back home yet?" "I am," she said evenly, tucking the signed documents into her purse. "Got home last week." "Good," he said. "That's good. You sound better." I told Erica you'd bounce back. You always do. Donna smiled faintly, though there was no warmth in it. I'm taking things slow. Doctor's orders. Right, right. He hesitated, then added, Hey, when you're feeling up to it, we should talk about the house sometime. You know, long-term plans. You don't want to be rattling around in that place alone forever. Donna froze with her hand on the drawer handle. Outside, a crow landed on the snowy fence, black against white. The house? She repeated quietly. Yeah, Mark said, tone casual but purposeful. I've been thinking, maybe we could look at some options. Downsizing or selling, whatever makes sense. I mean, it's probably worth a lot now, right? Boise's market's wild. You could move into a nice condo closer to downtown. She could picture him saying it, leaning back in his chair, tapping his pen, already running the numbers. Her son, the planner. Her son, the beneficiary who no longer was. I appreciate your concern, Donna said slowly, but I've already handled the house. There was a pause on the line. Handled it? Yes, it's taken care of. Mark chuckled awkwardly. What do you mean? You can't just… Mom, if you're thinking about one of those reverse mortgage scams, I can… Mark, she said, her voice steady, her patience gone. It's no longer your concern. The silence that followed was different this time, thick, sharp, aware. What does that mean? He asked, the easy tone cracking at the edges. It means you don't need to worry about the house, or anything else that belongs to me. You're talking like I'm some stranger, he said, a note of disbelief creeping in. I'm your son. I know who you are, Donna said. I also know what you aren't. The line went quiet again. Donna could hear him exhale through his nose, a sound she recognized from every conversation where he didn't get his way. You've been listening to Lacey too much, he said finally. She's always trying to… This has nothing to do with Lacey, Donna interrupted. This has to do with me finally deciding who deserves what I've spent my life earning. He started to speak, but she ended the call before he could finish. The phone screen went black, her reflection faint in the glass. Tired, yes, but unflinching. She placed the phone face down and opened the kitchen window. Cold air swept in, crisp and clean. The faint smell of pine drifted through, mingling with the aroma of the tea steeping beside her. On the table, the will lay under her coffee cup, a thin edge of paper curling upward where her signature dried. She traced the letters. Absently, then whispered, This is what love looks like when it finally stops asking for permission. In the distance, the snowmelt from her gutters pattered into the yard. Steady, dissolving, unstoppable. Her doorbell rang, startling her. For an instant, she thought Mark might have driven over, his pride wounded enough to confront her. But when she peeked through the side window, it was only Lacey, holding a stack of mail and waving through the glass. Donna exhaled, a half smile tugging at her lips. The storm she'd been dreading wasn't outside. It was coming. Sure enough. But she was ready this time. She tucked the envelope for Miles into her purse and whispered to herself, Let him wonder. Then she opened the door and stepped aside, letting the cold air and Lacey in, both of them sharp, alive, and utterly hers to welcome. The late afternoon sun slanted through the kitchen blinds, turning the room into stripes of amber and dust. Donna Tilden stood barefoot on the cool tile, a roll of masking tape in one hand and a black Sharpie in the other. Every cabinet door bore a small white label: dishes, donate, linens, keep, tools, Lacey's husband, old photos, review later. The house felt strangely alive under the quiet discipline of order. Each label was a decision, each box a sentence in the story she was finally rewriting. The counters gleamed, the air smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and cardboard. Her old life, 40 years of it, had been sorted into piles. What mattered, what didn't, and what she no longer had to explain to anyone. From the living room, the hum of the heater filled the silence. She paused to rest her back against the counter, watching sunlight catch the rim of her coffee mug. It was peaceful, almost serene, until she heard the crunch of tires in the driveway. No one was expected. Through the window, she saw Erica step out of a silver SUV, coat collar pulled high against the wind. Even from a distance, Donna could tell by the briskness of her walk that this wasn't a social call. By the time the knock came, Donna had already braced herself. She opened the door halfway. "Erica," she said, keeping her tone even. "This is a surprise." Erica's smile didn't reach her eyes. "I was in the area. Thought I'd check in. See how you're feeling." "Better every day," Donna replied. She didn't move aside. Erica's gaze darted past her shoulder into the house, quick and assessing. "Can I come in? It's freezing out here." Donna hesitated, then stepped back. "A few minutes." Erica walked in, her heels clicking softly on the wood floor. Her eyes flicked from the labeled cabinets to the half-filled boxes near the wall. "Looks like a big project." "Just simplifying," Donna said, "trying to make things easier for myself." Erica nodded, pretending interest as she ran a manicured finger along the counter. "Mark mentioned you were sorting things. He was a little worried, actually." "Worried?" Donna echoed, opening a drawer and taping a new label. "Utensils. Donate." "Yes," Erica said lightly. "You know how he gets. He just wants to make sure you're not overdoing it." She glanced around the kitchen again, her tone turning curious. "You've kept this place so tidy. I told him it's practically move-in ready." Donna stopped mid-motion, the tape stretching in her hands. "Move-in ready?" Erica shrugged, casual as if discussing the weather. "You know, whenever you decide to sell or make a change, Mark says it'll all be yours, of course, once things settle. He just doesn't want you to stress." The air in the kitchen shifted, sharp as a blade under a smile. Donna set the tape down slowly. "He said that?" Erica gave a little laugh, unaware, or pretending to be. "Well, not in so many words, but he's your only child. It's just natural, isn't it?" Donna turned toward her fully, studying her face. Erica's eyes were already scanning the living room, cataloging furniture with the quiet efficiency of someone appraising. "I suppose that depends on who you ask," Donna said softly. Erica blinked. "I'm sorry?" Donna walked past her, steady despite the ache in her ribs. She opened a cabinet, revealing 2 stacks of teacups, bone china with fading gold rims. "These were my mother's," she said. "She used to say whoever pours the tea controls the room." Erica smiled politely, missing the point. "They're lovely." Donna closed the cabinet. "I don't offer tea to people who come to inspect my house." Erica's smile faltered. "I didn't mean it like that." "Oh, I think you did," Donna said, still calm. "You just forgot who you were talking to." A pause hung between them. The heater clicked off, and the silence that followed felt vast. Erica smoothed her coat sleeve, trying to recover the upper hand. "Mark just wants what's best for you." "I'm sure he does," Donna said, "but he'll have to find something else to want. The house isn't his to worry about anymore." Erica frowned, confusion flickering across her face. "I'm not sure I understand." "You don't need to." Donna reached for the Sharpie, uncapped it, and wrote one last label across a fresh strip of tape. She pressed it to a sealed box by the doorway. The black letters stood out clear and deliberate. "Already promised." Erica's expression tightened, something calculating behind her eyes. "Does Mark know about this?" "Not yet," Donna said. "But he will." For the first time, Erica didn't have an answer. She glanced around once more, her eyes softer now. Not curious, but cautious. "Well," she said after a moment, forcing a small smile. I should let you get back to it. Donna nodded. Drive safe. When the door shut behind her, the house seemed to expand again. Quiet, strong, unbothered. Donna stood for a long moment, breathing in the stillness. Then she picked up her coffee, looked at the already promised label, and smiled faintly. He thinks it's his, she whispered to herself. They both do. Outside, Erica's SUV backed out of the driveway, tires crunching against the melting snow. Donna turned off the kitchen light, her reflection caught in the dark window pane, steady, patient, waiting. The storm brewing this time wasn't in the sky. It was in the sound of her son realizing too late that the ground beneath him had already shifted. The snow outside Donna Tilden's window had crusted into a glittering shell, the kind that squeaked underfoot but caught the porch light like glass. Inside, the house glowed softly, lamps lit, cocoa steaming, the faint hum of the radio low in the background. Donna sat at her kitchen table, laptop open before her, glasses perched halfway down her nose. She wasn't scrolling for news or weather, she was staring at a photo someone had tagged her in by accident. Mark and Erica sat at a long, candlelit table in what looked like an upscale downtown restaurant. White tablecloths, gold-rimmed plates, expensive wine. Around them were a dozen laughing faces. Co-workers, friends, maybe Erica's family. Mark's arm rested on the back of Erica's chair, his watch gleaming under the chandelier light. In the next photo, Erica stood, glass in hand, smile sharp and camera ready. The caption beneath read, "To building our future, brick by brick." Donna stared at that phrase for a long time. Her cocoa cooled. There had been a time when she would have been there, sitting quietly at the end of the table, smiling too much, trying too hard, always careful not to say anything that might embarrass him. But that version of her was gone, filed away with the old will and every apology she'd given to keep the peace. She closed the laptop gently, as though shutting a door on a life she no longer belonged to. The reflection of the screen lingered in the window. Her face, lined and steady, haloed by the soft kitchen light. Brick by brick, she whispered, a faint ironic smile curling at the edges. On the counter sat a half-finished document, her advance directive spread beside a pen and a fresh mug of cocoa. She'd begun updating it earlier that evening but paused when the photos appeared. Now, with her laptop closed, the decision came easy. She picked up the pen and drew a single line through Mark's name in the medical power of attorney section. The sound of the ink scratching the paper was satisfying, even musical. Underneath, in clear, measured handwriting, she wrote, Lacey Monroe. She paused, then added in parentheses, to serve as proxy and final authority for all medical and end-of-life care. It was more than legal phrasing. It was trust given form. The grandfather clock in the hall chimed 8. Outside, wind brushed against the siding, low and restless. Donna set down her pen and leaned back, feeling the warmth of the cocoa cup between her palms. She'd never planned to outgrow her own son, but here she was, still learning, still rewriting, still alive in ways she hadn't expected to be. A soft knock startled her. For a second, her heart leapt. Then she realized it was only the mail slot. Something had been slipped through. When she picked it up, she recognized the tidy, looping handwriting on the envelope before she even opened it. Julie Tran, RN. She smiled, slid a butter knife under the flap, and unfolded the note inside. Dear Mrs. Tilden, I hope you've been resting and staying warm. I wanted to thank you for the stories you told me during your recovery. You reminded me that kindness is a choice, not an obligation. You inspired me more than you know. Warmly, Julie Donna's throat tightened. She ran her thumb along the edge of the note, tracing the ink as if it might dissolve beneath her touch. A nurse from a small Boise hospital, a near stranger, had seen her more clearly than her own son. She set the letter down and let herself cry, silent and unhurried. The tears came not from sadness, but from the strange, healing ache of recognition. When they stopped, she reached for her pen again. With deliberate calm, she added one more note to the bottom of her document. If Lacey cannot serve, authority passes to Julie Tran, RN. She capped the pen, folded the paper neatly, and slipped it into the envelope marked Important Papers. Top drawer. Then she took another sip of cocoa. It had cooled, but it was sweet, all the same. In the window's reflection, the faint light of the laptop blinked. The image still open in another tab, showing Erica mid-toast, glass raised high. Donna looked at her own reflection instead and whispered, "Let them build. I've already built mine." And in the quiet of her kitchen, with wind curling through the eaves and snow whispering against the glass, Donna smiled. Small, sure, and entirely her own. The morning broke pale and thin, a watery light slipping through Donna Tilden's blinds. She sat at her kitchen table, still in her robe, sorting through a small stack of papers that represented everything she had left to settle. Her cocoa had gone cold again. She didn't bother reheating it. Her printer whirred from across the room, spitting out a single sheet. The sound had become oddly satisfying, like the ticking of progress. When it finished, she stood, crossed the room, and pulled the paper from the tray. The text was printed in large, bold type. Mark. Hey, Mom. Didn't mean to sound harsh the other day. Just thinking ahead, you know. Maybe we can talk about options when you're ready. Love you. Donna read it once, then again. She didn't roll her eyes, didn't scoff, didn't even sigh. She simply folded the paper into thirds and slipped it into the growing folder labeled Estate and Legacy. Her handwriting on the cover was neat, assertive. When she slid the folder back into its drawer, she whispered, "I'll leave him exactly what he gave me. Words." The knock on the side door came right on cue. Lacey didn't wait for permission, of course. She let herself in, stomping snow off her boots, a scarf wrapped twice around her neck. "You know, if I didn't love you, I'd be worried about how organized you've gotten. You're one label away from becoming your own archivist." Donna smiled faintly. "I'm making sure nobody can rewrite my story when I'm gone." Lacey plopped her tote bag on the counter. "That's the spirit." Her gaze landed on the printed text still half sticking out from the drawer. "Is that from our favorite boy wonder?" "Yesterday," Donna said. "He wants to talk about options." Lacey smirked, pouring herself coffee. "You raised a real estate agent without a license." That earned a laugh. Short, surprised, and genuine. It warmed the kitchen more than the sun did. "Anyway," Lacey said, leaning on the counter, "I talked to my cousin who volunteers at the women's shelter up near Payette. They're expanding, looking for a property to convert into transitional housing. Something quiet, single level, near a bus line. Sound familiar?" Donna tilted her head. "You mean this house?" Lacey shrugged. "You did say you wanted it to do some good after you're done with it." The idea hung in the air, fragile but shining. Donna turned slowly, scanning her kitchen, the neat counters, the boxes, the labels. A life condensed into inventory. Maybe this home could breathe again in someone else's story. "Tell them to send over their proposal," she said. "I'll make it work." Lacey grinned. Now that's the Donna I know, taking names, moving mountains. After Lacey left, Donna sat at the table a long while thinking. The house had been her sanctuary and her cage, depending on the day. But maybe it could become something better, a place that didn't just end with her. That evening, she opened her laptop and set up her phone on a small tripod. The light from the window fell across her face, soft and forgiving. She adjusted her glasses, pressed record, and began. "If you're watching this," she said, her voice steady, "I made peace. Just not with Mark. She smiled faintly, not out of bitterness, but clarity. What I've left behind isn't punishment, it's purpose. The house you're standing in now was full of waiting once, waiting for calls that never came, for visits that didn't happen. Now it's a place for new beginnings. Use it well, live in it loud, fill it with people who show up. Her eyes glistened, but her voice stayed even. And if anyone ever asks why, tell them Donna Tilden finally decided to stop giving away her good years to people who only took them. She stopped recording, exhaled slowly, and watched the video play back once. It was raw, unpolished, honest, the kind of truth she'd never spoken out loud before. Then she saved it to a flash drive and slid it into the same folder where Mark's text now lived. The phone rang once more that night. An unfamiliar number from the bank. Donna answered, polite but wary. "Mrs. Tilden," said the manager's measured voice. "Per your request, we've frozen access to the joint emergency funds your son used to have permissions on. You'll receive a confirmation by mail." "Thank you," Donna said. Her tone was calm, almost kind. "That's exactly what I wanted." When she hung up, she leaned back and listened to the steady hum of her old refrigerator. It was the sound of a house that had finally stopped waiting for someone to come home. Outside, the last of the snow began to fall again. Soft, deliberate, covering everything that didn't need to be seen. Donna whispered to no one in particular, "He'll learn soon enough." And for a moment, the quiet didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like peace earned. The knock came just before noon, 3 sharp raps that didn't belong to the mailman or Lacey. Donna Tilden froze halfway through taping a box labeled "Winter Coats. Donate." The wind outside rattled the front windows, but the knocking didn't stop. When she opened the door, Mark stood on the porch, red-faced and impatient, his jacket unzipped despite the cold. Behind him, his SUV idled in the driveway, exhaust puffing white into the brittle air. "Mom," he said, voice clipped. "We need to talk." Donna kept her hand on the edge of the door. "About?" He stepped forward, uninvited. "About what you've been doing. The accounts. The bank called me." Her stomach tightened, though her expression didn't change. "They shouldn't have." "Well, they did," he snapped, "and now I find out you've been, what? Restructuring assets, freezing accounts, letting strangers go through your finances." He said the last word like it was filth. Donna moved aside, gesturing for him to come in. "You can say what you need to, but I'd appreciate a civil tone in my house." Mark walked in, gaze sweeping the living room, the labeled boxes, the missing photos from the wall, the clean emptiness of it all. "What's going on here?" he demanded. "You're packing like you're leaving." "Just simplifying," Donna said. "We've already had this conversation." "No," he shot back. "We didn't. You hung up on me." She folded her arms. Then maybe that conversation said everything it needed to. Mark's jaw worked, the muscles in his temple tightening. "You're being manipulated," he said finally. "By Lacey. By whoever this lawyer is. You've let people get into your head. And now you're cutting me off?" Donna studied him. The flushed face, the restless hands, the panic poorly disguised as indignation. For years she'd mistaken that look for concern. Now she saw it for what it was. Control slipping through his fingers. "Sit down," she said quietly. He hesitated, then did, perching on the edge of the sofa like a man waiting for bad news. Donna walked to her desk drawer, pulled out a thin folder and placed it on the coffee table in front of him. "You're worried about finances," she said. "Here's what you've been taking out for the last 6 months." He blinked. "What?" "ATM withdrawals, debit charges, the emergency fund you had access to." She opened the folder, revealing neat columns of printed statements. "The one meant for my prescriptions and utilities." Mark stared at the papers. I I only used it once in a while, when things were tight. You said, I said it was for emergencies. Donna interrupted, her tone firm but calm. Your mortgage payment isn't my emergency. His eyes darted across the pages, scanning the dates, the totals. You had no right to dig through. It's my account, she said evenly. I had every right. He stood abruptly, the folder sliding from his lap to the floor. You don't understand how this looks, Mom. You're making yourself vulnerable. People will take advantage of you. She met his gaze without flinching. The only person who ever took advantage of me is standing in my living room. The words hit him harder than she expected. For a moment, the defensiveness faltered. He looked small, almost boyish, then angry again, trying to recover control. You can't do this, he said, voice rising. You can't just rewrite everything. I already did, Donna said quietly. Mark took a step toward her, his tone softening now, manipulative in its practiced familiarity. Mom, come on, you're upset. You've been through a lot. We can fix this, okay? Just tell me what's been changed, and I'll help sort it out. Donna walked to the door and opened it wide, the cold air spilling in. I'm not the one who needs sorting out, Mark. He froze. You're really doing this? She nodded once. Goodbye. Mom? She closed the door mid-sentence. The sound echoed through the house, clean and final. For a long moment, Donna stood there, hand still on the knob, her heart hammering. She heard the muffled sound of his footsteps on the porch, then the slam of his car door, the crunch of tires leaving her driveway. Only when silence returned did she let herself exhale. The phone rang just as she turned back toward the living room. Miles Rudd's name flashed on the screen. Mrs. Tilden, he said, his voice steady but laced with something new. Caution. I wanted to let you know your son contacted my office. He's inquiring about your will. Would you like me to notify him officially? Donna looked at the door, still vibrating faintly from where she'd shut it, and felt something like steel settle in her chest. Her answer came slow, deliberate. Yes, Miles. Notify him. Make it formal. Understood, Miles said. I'll take care of it. When the call ended, Donna stood alone in the quiet room, the afternoon light slicing through the blinds like ribbons. For the first time in months, she felt something close to peace. Not because she'd won, but because she'd stopped being afraid to lose. Outside, the wind carried away the sound of Mark's engine until there was nothing left at all. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, sent by certified mail with the quiet authority of legal paper. Miles Rudd had promised Donna it would be clear, factual, and final. She imagined it landing in Mark's hands. His surprise, then disbelief, then the sharp heat of wounded pride. By Wednesday morning, her phone began to buzz. The first call came at 8:13 a.m. She let it ring. The second at 8:22. She silenced it. By the third, the vibration rattled against the kitchen counter, persistent, almost desperate. When the voicemail alert blinked, she stood there for a full minute, watching the little red light. Then she picked up the phone, pressed delete, and set it back down without listening. The message was not hers to carry anymore. Outside, sunlight broke through the clouds, glittering across the thin crust of ice that had settled over the yard. Donna drew her cardigan tighter and sat at the table with her stationery box open. The air smelled faintly of cedar and ink. She took out a thick sheet of cream-colored paper and began to write, her script slow and deliberate. To the women at Maple Grove Shelter. You don't know me, but I know what it means to lose a home, not in bricks and wood, but in belonging. I used to be silent. Now I speak with actions. Please accept these funds not as charity, but as trust. Proof that the world still has people who see your worth. With warmth, Donna Tilden. She folded the letter carefully, slid it into an envelope, and sealed it with her thumb. Her handwriting had never looked more certain. A knock came from the side door. Lacey's voice followed, brisk and familiar. "If you're in there and ignoring me, I'm calling the sheriff." Donna smiled and opened the door. Lacey stepped in, cheeks pink from the cold, holding a roll of tape and a bundle of flattened boxes. "Operation Closet Cleanout continues," she announced. Donna laughed softly. "You're relentless." "That's friendship," Lacey said, kicking the door shut behind her. "Now, I brought reinforcements." The two women worked side by side, sorting through Donna's hall closet: coats, scarves, mittens, all labeled and folded into donation boxes. Each piece carried a memory. The parka from the winter Mark broke his wrist skating, the wool scarf she'd knitted during her husband's last year. When Lacey held up a pale blue coat, Donna hesitated. "You sure about this one?" Lacey asked. "It looks like you still wear it." Donna nodded slowly. "Someone else needs it more. I've got warmth enough in other ways now." Lacey's eyes softened. She folded the coat neatly, slid it into the donation box, and pressed the lid down. "You're getting good at this," she said. "Letting go?" Donna asked. "Keeping what matters," Lacey corrected. The afternoon passed quietly, the kind of companionable silence that only comes after years of friendship. When they were done, 3 neat boxes sat by the door, ready for delivery. As Lacey left, she gave Donna's arm a squeeze. "You're lighter," she said. "You notice that?" "I do," Donna said, smiling. "Finally." When the house grew still again, Donna made herself a cup of tea and sat by the window. The bare trees swayed against a soft gray sky. Her phone buzzed once more, lighting up the counter across the room. This time, it wasn't a call. It was a text. "Erica. Hope you're okay after that little stunt. Guess we'll see what happens next." Donna stared at the message until the words blurred. She set the phone face down, the sound of the ceramic cup clinking softly against the saucer. For a moment she imagined replying. Something sharp, maybe even cruel. But she didn't. She'd spent enough of her life defending choices that required no explanation. Instead, she turned to the sealed envelope on the table, the one addressed to the women's shelter, and smiled faintly. "Some things deserve an answer," she murmured, "and some don't." She rose, slipped on her coat, and stepped outside. The wind was cold, but it felt like it belonged to her now. She locked the door behind her and walked down the driveway, the envelope tucked safely in her pocket. By the time she reached the corner mailbox, snow had started to fall again. Slow, soft flakes drifting like closure. She dropped the envelope inside, heard the hollow thunk as it landed, and whispered, "That's one more promise kept." As she turned to head home, her phone buzzed once more in her pocket. A new voicemail. She didn't need to check to know who it was. But she paused on the sidewalk anyway, eyes lifting to the pale sky above the cul-de-sac. For a brief moment she let herself breathe it all in, the cold air, the silence, the finality. Then she smiled to herself, whispered, "Let him wait," and kept walking. The summons came folded in a crisp white envelope, stamped with the county court seal. Miles Rudd had warned her it might. Still, seeing her son's name printed beside her own, Tilden versus Tilden, landed like a bruise she hadn't expected. The claim was thin, mostly bluster. Allegations of undue influence, cognitive decline, outside interference. Mark's words, filtered through some lawyer who had probably never met her. But what cut deepest was the arrogance of it, the assumption that she couldn't possibly have made her own choices. When she called Miles, his voice was steady as always. "Don't worry, Mrs. Tilden. We've been ready for this since the day you signed." He wasn't exaggerating. 2 days later, he submitted a 62-page response, copies of her evaluations, signed statements from medical staff, notarized directives, proof of every decision made in her own handwriting. Even Julie had written a letter affirming Donna's mental clarity and resolve. Donna read the draft at her kitchen table, the snow light soft on the papers. She paused halfway through, struck by the detail: dates, signatures, footnotes, even timestamps from recorded consultations. Miles had built a fortress of proof. "Will he have to see all this?" she asked when she called him. "Every line," Miles replied. "It's what happens when someone confuses entitlement for evidence." The hearing date came and went quietly. Mark didn't show in person. His lawyer appeared instead, unprepared for the mountain of documentation Miles had provided. The judge read through the motion, flipped twice through the binder, and delivered a verdict that took less than 5 minutes. Case dismissed. Donna wasn't even required to attend. When Miles called with the news, she was in her backyard, clearing fallen branches from the last storm. "He can appeal if he wants," Miles said. "But he'd be wasting his money. The judge sealed the records, by the way. None of this will ever become public." Donna brushed snow from her gloves. "Then it's over." Miles hesitated. "It's finished," he said gently. "That's not always the same thing." After she hung up, she stood there in the crisp air, her breath rising like steam. The world looked sharp, newly defined, the way winter always did right after a storm. That night, Erica broke her silence in the way people like Erica always did: a cryptic post on Facebook. "It's sad when family forgets where they came from. Money changes people." Within an hour, the comments section filled with polite confusion, then pity, then quiet skepticism. One of Erica's old coworkers even replied, "Pretty sure it's the other way around." Donna didn't see the post firsthand. Lacey texted her a screenshot with a note: "You owe me lunch for monitoring nonsense." Donna typed back one line: "She's trying to start a fire in the snow." And that was that. By the end of the week, the story had blown over. Mark's phone calls stopped. The house was quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet now. Earned, deliberate, not empty. On Sunday morning, Donna made herself pancakes, real butter and all, and let the smell fill the kitchen. As she poured syrup, her phone buzzed on the counter. The name on the screen made her smile: Julie Tran. Guess who's teaching her first nurse training class today? The message was followed by a photo: Julie in a bright, sunlit classroom, surrounded by a dozen students in scrubs, each one smiling nervously into the camera. The caption read, "For the people who reminded me what compassion looks like." Donna felt the warmth spread through her chest. She typed back, "Donna, you're exactly where you're needed." 3 dots blinked, then Julie's reply appeared. "Julie, so are you." Donna set the phone down and looked around her kitchen. The light, the quiet, the smell of pancakes cooling on the plate. For the first time, the house didn't feel like a space she was leaving behind. It felt alive again. But as she rinsed her plate and turned toward the window, she caught sight of a familiar shape parked at the edge of the cul-de-sac, a dark SUV idling behind the bare oak tree. Mark. He didn't get out, just sat there, the exhaust rising like smoke. Donna's pulse quickened, but she didn't move toward the door. Instead, she reached up, closed the curtain, and whispered, "You can't win a fight I already walked away from." Then she turned off the kitchen light, leaving the SUV and everything it represented outside in the cold. The wind carried the first hint of spring as Donna Tilden stepped carefully up the ramp to the Boise Public Library. Her cane clicked rhythmically against the concrete, a steady heartbeat of purpose. Lacey walked beside her, balancing 2 heavy boxes in her arms, each filled with her late husband's books. "Remind me why I volunteered for the heavy lifting?" Lacey muttered. "Because you're stubborn," Donna said, smiling. "And because I asked nicely." Inside, the air smelled of paper and lemon wood polish. Children's voices drifted from somewhere beyond the front desk, Soft giggles, pages turning, a librarian's quiet shh wrapped in affection. The warmth of it all settled around Donna like a quilt. A young librarian greeted them with a bright smile. "Mrs. Tilden, you made it. We've been waiting for you." Donna nodded, eyes glinting with a calm pride. "I don't miss appointments that matter." The librarian motioned toward a newly built section beyond the main stacks. A small crowd gathered there. Staff members, a few local board members, and even a cluster of children sitting cross-legged on the new carpet, picture books open on their laps. The sign above the doorway gleamed in brass. "The Donna Tilden Reading Room in honor of quiet strength and lifelong generosity." Donna stopped just short of the threshold. The sight of her name, etched, permanent, seen, stilled her breath. It wasn't grand or loud. It was exactly what she wanted, enduring and calm. "Oh, Donna," Lacey whispered. Her voice wobbled. "You actually did it." Donna turned her head slightly, half smiling. "No, we did it. You were the one who drove those donation boxes when I couldn't lift them." "Yeah, but you were the one who gave up your son's inheritance for this." Donna's hand tightened on the cane. "No, I gave up the illusion that love only counts when it's repaid." A small boy tugged at her coat sleeve. He couldn't have been more than 7. Freckles dusted across his nose. "Ma'am," he said, holding up a book. "Are you the lady whose name is on the wall?" Donna crouched slightly, her joints protesting but not stopping her. "I suppose I am." He grinned, missing one front tooth. "Then thank you. This place is nice." The simplicity of it undid her more than any ceremony could have. Lacey, sniffling, muttered, "If you start crying, I'm joining you." "I make no promises," Donna said softly. They followed the librarian inside. The room was warm and sunlit, windows looking out over the park. A reading nook filled one corner, bright with beanbags and soft rugs. Along the back wall, a display shelf stood ready for the books she'd brought. Hardcovers that had lived on her husband's nightstand for years. Steinbeck, Carver, a weathered copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. As they unpacked the boxes, the librarian said, "These will go in our heritage collection, circulating, but protected. And there's something else." She turned to a small table where a dark walnut plaque rested on a velvet cloth. The engraving read, "In honor of Donna Tilden, quiet strength, for proving that legacy is not what you leave behind, but what you build while you're here." For once, Donna had no words. Lacey took her hand, squeezing tight. "You know," she said, voice catching, "when you told me months ago that you wanted to leave something that couldn't be sold, I didn't think you meant a whole room." Donna chuckled, wiping at her eyes. "Well, it's harder to list on Zillow, that's for sure." A burst of laughter from the children's corner broke the moment's stillness. One little girl was reading aloud, tripping over her words but pushing through anyway. Her teacher leaned close, whispering encouragement. Donna watched them, her smile deepening. "That's it," she murmured. "That's exactly what I wanted." The librarian gestured toward a small guest book on the table. "Would you like to sign it?" Donna nodded, leaning on her cane as she bent forward to write. Her pen moved slowly, the ink looping steady across the page. "For anyone who ever had to start over, you can?" She underlined the last 2 words, then closed the book gently. Lacey wiped her eyes again, failing to hide the tears. "You've got me bawling in a library, you witch." Donna laughed, soft and true. "I'll take that as a compliment." As they made their way toward the exit, the sunlight caught on the brass letters of her name again. For the first time, she didn't flinch at the idea of permanence. Outside, the air smelled of thawing earth. Birds were returning, cautious but sure. Donna paused at the top of the ramp, one hand gripping the rail. Lacey looked at her, eyes still red. "So, what's next?" Donna smiled, gazing out toward the park, where the snow had started to recede in soft, uneven patches. "Oh," she said, "I still have a few things left to put in order." The words hung there, quiet but promising, an unfinished chapter waiting just ahead. The wind was back that morning, soft, steady, and cold enough to carry the smell of snow. Donna Tilden sat at her kitchen table, a mug of tea cooling beside her laptop. The subject line glared from her inbox. From Mark Tilden. Subject: urgent. "We need to talk about this." Her hand hovered over the trackpad. For a moment, she considered closing it altogether, but curiosity, tired, reluctant, won out. "Mom, I saw the reading room post online. Congrats, I guess. But this whole will thing, you can't seriously mean to cut me out completely. People are talking. Do you realize how this looks? It's embarrassing, not just for me, but for the family name. You need to undo this before it's too late. I'm willing to forgive and move forward, but only if we fix this now. Call me as soon as you get this. Mark." There it was. No apology, no regret, just panic disguised as authority. Donna read it twice, her tea going cold, her heart steady. Then she clicked reply and typed 5 words. "This is already done. No greeting, no sign-off." She hit send and closed the laptop. The sound it made when it shut was soft but final, like the closing of a chapter that had gone on too long. Donna sat there for a while, listening to the refrigerator hum, the quiet creak of the house settling. Then she reached for the manila envelope waiting beside her, the last set of legal documents from Miles Rudd's office. Everything was finalized now: the trust, the directives, the housing transfer. All that was left was to send them back, sealed and official. She slipped the envelope into her tote, buttoned her coat, and stepped outside. The cul-de-sac was quiet under the gray morning light. Snow threatened, but hadn't started yet. Donna walked slowly to the mailbox at the corner, her cane crunching against gravel. When she slid the envelope inside and let the metal flap fall shut, she felt the smallest rush of something unexpected: relief. Across the street, Lacey's front door opened. "You're up early," Lacey called, waving. "Get over here before you freeze. Tea and toast are already on." Donna smiled, tugged her scarf tighter, and made her way across the road. Lacey's kitchen was as warm and cluttered as ever. Newspaper clippings on the fridge, the smell of cinnamon and butter filling the air. "Sit," Lacey ordered, pointing to the table. "You look like someone who just signed a peace treaty." "Maybe I did," Donna said, easing into the chair. Lacey poured tea into mismatched mugs. "You hear from him?" Donna nodded once. "Email, not worth printing." Lacey studied her face, then grinned. "You didn't write back, did you?" "One line." "Good girl." They clinked mugs in quiet celebration. Outside, the first flakes of snow began to drift, thin, tentative, then steadier. For the next hour, they talked about nothing important: the weather, a new bakery downtown, whether Lacey's cat was getting too fat to jump on the counter. It was the kind of conversation that didn't demand anything, that let silence rest comfortably between sentences. By the time Donna walked home, the snow had begun to gather on rooftops and lawns, muffling the world. She stood in her living room a long time, watching it fall, her cane resting lightly against her leg. Then she turned to her desk. The top drawer slid open easily, revealing the small fireproof safety box she'd purchased the week before. Inside it, she began stacking her documents in careful order: will, trust, directives, account information. Every choice accounted for, every paper signed. When she was done, she laid her hand on the lid before closing it. "No loose ends," she murmured. A soft knock came at the front door. When she opened it, Julie Tran stood on the porch, bundled in a parka, cheeks pink from the cold. She held a small gift bag in one hand. "I was in the neighborhood," she said shyly. Thought I'd check on you. Donna smiled and stepped aside. Come in, sweetheart. I was just finishing up something important. Julie set the bag on the table. Inside was a framed photo, her nurse training class from the week before, all of them grinning. We got certified, she said proudly. I wanted you to have this. Donna's eyes softened. You didn't have to. I know, Julie said, but you're part of the reason I'm here. Donna sat, motioning for her to join her. You know, she said, I used to think giving meant letting people take pieces of you. Turns out it means giving the right pieces to the right people. Julie smiled. That sounds like something my students should hear. Then tell them, Donna said. They drank tea together as the snow thickened outside, the world turning white and quiet again. When Julie rose to leave, Donna stopped her at the door, a folded envelope in hand. Before you go, she said softly, I need to ask you a favor. Lacey's my medical proxy, but if anything ever happens to her... Julie's brow furrowed. Donna, don't argue. Just promise me you'll take her place. Julie hesitated, then nodded. Of course, but are you sure? Donna's smile was calm, sure, unshakable. Completely. She pressed the envelope into Julie's hand. Inside, her attorney's letter made it official. Power of attorney, secondary. Julie looked at her, speechless. You trust me that much? I do, Donna said. You're the kind of person who shows up. That's all the qualification I need. Julie blinked back tears. You're something else, Mrs. Tilden. Donna's voice softened. I used to be something for someone. Now I'm something because of what I chose. They hugged at the door, the snow swirling quietly around them. When Julie's car finally disappeared down the street, Donna returned to her kitchen. She poured the last of the tea into her mug, sat down by the window, and watched the snow fall harder. Fast now, heavy enough to blanket the past in silence. She smiled faintly to herself and whispered, Goodbye, doesn't always need to be said out loud. The clock ticked softly behind her. Outside, the snow kept falling, steady and bright, as if the world was writing her story one last time, only this time in her own hand. The morning Donna toured the assisted living community, Boise shimmered under a bright, thawing sky. The kind of late winter day that hinted at spring without promising it. She stood at the entrance to Cedar Ridge Independent Living, leaning lightly on her cane, taking in the wide glass doors and manicured walkways lined with pines. Inside, the air smelled faintly of lavender and clean linen. Sunlight poured through tall windows, pooling across the tiled floor. A cheerful receptionist looked up from her desk the moment Donna stepped inside. Mrs. Tilden? The woman said, standing. Welcome to Cedar Ridge. We've been expecting you. It had been years since anyone had said those words without an edge of obligation. Thank you, Donna said, smiling politely. I like punctual people. A younger staff member appeared, crisp uniform, tablet in hand. I'm Kara. I'll be showing you around today. We've already got your name on the move-in list. If you decide we're a fit, of course. Donna followed her down the corridor, her steps slow but sure. The place didn't have the sterile hush she'd dreaded. Instead, there was the low hum of life. Television laughter spilling faintly from a rec room, the scent of fresh coffee, the distant sound of piano keys being pressed by uncertain hands. They passed a sunroom filled with potted succulents and light. We get good morning sun here, Kara said. Most of our residents read or journal in the mornings. Perfect, Donna said softly. I do both. She had brought her journals in her tote, wrapped neatly with the red ribbon she'd found in her sewing box. The pages held pieces of her life, the small victories, the names of every person who had shown up when she needed them. Lacey, Miles, Julie. Your suite is just down this way, Kara said. The door opened to a corner unit with two wide windows looking out toward a small lake. The walls were pale cream, the furniture simple and sturdy. Donna crossed the threshold slowly, eyes moving over every detail: the recliner, the reading lamp, the neatly folded blanket waiting at the end of the bed. She smiled when she saw the blanket's soft, familiar pattern: cream with faint blue stitching. Her own. Lacey must have dropped it off ahead of time. "Who brought this?" she asked. "Your friend, Lacey Monroe," Kara said, checking her tablet. "She said it belonged here before you did." Donna laughed quietly. "That sounds like her." Kara gestured toward the window. "We offer full independence. Your own key, your own schedule. Meals are optional, but we have excellent pie nights." "Pie nights might just keep me alive," Donna said dryly, and Kara grinned. As they walked back toward the front office, Donna paused by a small courtyard where a few residents were tending to planters filled with dormant herbs. "Do you have space for new gardens?" she asked. "We do," Kara said. "And we're always looking for volunteers to help with the greenhouse. Would you like me to add your name?" "Please." They returned to the office and Kara slid a simple form across the desk. Donna pulled out her checkbook without hesitation. Her handwriting, though slower now, stayed steady as she filled in the line for the full payment. "Would you like to set up automatic withdrawal from family?" Kara asked gently. "Many residents." "No family funds," Donna interrupted, smiling. "This comes directly from me." Kara nodded, sensing the weight behind that quiet statement. When everything was signed, Donna stood and adjusted her coat. "I'll be moving in next week," she said. "Please let the staff know I appreciate the welcome." "You're going to love it here," Kara said warmly, "and you'll have a lot of visitors. We keep a pretty open-door policy." Donna gave her a knowing smile. "I've already learned who shows up." As she stepped outside, the sunlight hit her face, bright and clean. The day had warmed enough that the snow in the gutters was melting, trickling in small streams along the pavement. She stood there a moment, breathing in the scent of pine and wet earth. Later that afternoon, when she returned home, Lacey was waiting in the driveway, 2 mugs of coffee in hand. "So?" Lacey asked. "Do they pass the vibe check?" Donna grinned. "They're good people. Organized, quiet. They even have a greenhouse." Lacey handed her a mug. "And the payment?" "Handled," Donna said. "Completely private." Lacey nodded approvingly. "No strings left for him to pull." "Not a one." They stood there in comfortable silence, sipping coffee as the sky dimmed. Inside, Donna began to pack the things that mattered most: her journals, her husband's watch, her favorite mug, a few framed photos that had survived her sorting. The rest she left for donation. As she folded the last of her clothes into a suitcase, she heard her phone buzz on the counter. A text from an unknown number. "Nurse. Mrs. Tilden, we're preparing your suite at Cedar Ridge. Will family be joining you for orientation?" Donna stared at the message for a long moment, then typed her reply. "I have friends who show up. That's enough." She hit send and set the phone down, her fingers resting for a moment on the smooth surface. Outside, the wind picked up again, carrying the faint sound of chimes from Lacey's porch. Donna walked to the window and watched the sunset blur across the horizon, soft gold fading into gray. The snow had melted into rivulets, carving new paths down the street, erasing the old ones. For the first time in years, Donna didn't wonder what came next. She knew. And as the last of the daylight touched the corner of her desk, the one where her will had once sat, she whispered not to anyone, but to the air itself. "Control isn't holding on. It's letting go the right way." The snow had returned. Soft, clean, unhurried. From her window at Cedar Ridge, Donna Tilden watched it fall in a steady hush, each flake spinning in the morning light before landing on the courtyard below. It was quieter here than she'd imagined, the kind of quiet that didn't demand anything. Her apartment smelled faintly of lavender polish and brewed coffee. On the desk by the window sat her journal, her reading glasses, and a single manila folder, the final update from Miles Rudd's office. She opened it slowly, smoothing the pages flat. Her name appeared in sharp print at the top of every sheet, Donna E. Tilden. The words beneath were precise, unshakable, binding. The trust confirmed, the healthcare proxy, the property deed. Every decision, hers and no one else's. Miles had written a small note at the bottom of the last page in his neat, careful hand. All matters filed and recorded. Your legacy is secure. Donna let out a slow breath, the kind that carried months of tension with it. She reached for her pen and signed her name one last time. Then, beneath the closing line of the document, she wrote a note to herself. Small, deliberate, not meant for any court to see. No one gets to rewrite my ending. When she was finished, she closed the folder and placed it in the drawer of her desk, locking it with the small brass key that hung from her necklace. Her gaze drifted back to the window. The snow still fell, heavier now, blanketing the courtyard garden she'd volunteered to tend come spring. Somewhere downstairs, the faint sound of a piano drifted through the hall, a hesitant version of Moon River, played by a resident who was still learning the keys. Donna smiled. She took her cane and made her way to the door. Today wasn't about paperwork. It was about proof of life, the kind that could be seen, touched, remembered. The Boise Public Library was warm and alive with sound when she stepped through its doors. Children's laughter echoed from the reading room. The smell of old pages, glue, and winter coats filled the air. As she entered the Donna Tilden reading room, she paused, just as she had the day it opened. The brass plaque caught the light again, gleaming softly. In honor of Donna Tilden, quiet strength, for proving that legacy is not what you leave behind, but what you build while you're here. The room was full. Children sprawled across beanbags with storybooks. Parents whispered at the back tables. A young volunteer organized shelves by the window, and near the corner, Julie Tran stood surrounded by 5 new nursing students, her smile wide and bright. Julie looked up and spotted her immediately. She waved, then mouthed, "Stay right there," before hurrying over. "Mrs. Tilden?" she said, breathless, her winter coat dusted with snow. "I was hoping you'd visit today." Donna laughed softly. "Seems I picked the right time." Julie motioned toward the small group she'd left behind. "My students are starting a health literacy program here, reading to the kids about kindness, health, empathy. You know, the good stuff. I thought you'd approve." "I more than approve," Donna said. "You're exactly where you're meant to be." Julie's eyes shimmered. "You said that once before." "I did," Donna said, smiling. "And I was right, wasn't I?" Julie nodded, then hugged her, quick but heartfelt. "You're my reminder to choose the work that matters." "Then promise me you'll keep doing that," Donna said. "I will," Julie replied. "Always." They stood for a moment in the warm hum of the room, the sound of a child reading aloud filling the space between them. Then Julie returned to her students, and Donna wandered toward the nearest shelf. Her husband's copy of To Kill a Mockingbird was there, worn spine, cornered pages, his name still penciled on the inside cover. She ran her thumb along it gently and whispered, "We did it, Frank. We finally built something that lasts." That evening, back in her apartment, the snow had turned to a soft flurry. The lamplight spilled over her journal as she opened it to a fresh page. Her handwriting was slower now, but steady. She wrote for nearly an hour. Small reflections, stray memories, a few words meant only for herself. When she reached the final page, she hesitated, pen hovering in the air. Then she wrote a single closing line. "I begged him for help once, and built a future where I'd never need him again." Donna set the pen down, her hand trembling only slightly. She read the line twice, then closed the journal and tied it with the same red ribbon that bound the rest. Outside, snow swirled under the lamplight, silent and endless. Donna leaned back in her chair, the blanket Lacey had sent folded over her knees, her cup of tea cooling beside her. Her phone buzzed softly on the table. A new message from Lacey. Lacey. He finally stopped calling. Donna smiled, a small, knowing smile that reached her eyes. She looked once more at the falling snow, the world clean, white, unmarked, and whispered to herself, "Good. Now the story can stay finished." And with that, she turned off the lamp, letting the glow from the window light her room, as outside the snow kept falling. Quiet, complete, and entirely her own.